I'm Jacob Goldberg. I recently returned home from the South Carolina Columbia mission. It was a great experience for sure. I guess we'll jump to my talk now. In Mosiah 2:8 it says, "And it came to pass that he began to speak to his people from the tower, and they could not all hear his words because of the greatness of the multitude. Therefore he caused that the words which he spake should be written and sent forth among those that were not under the sound of his voice, that they might also receive his words." I'm so grateful today to be able to have such a great magnitude to talk to, just so good to have such a good supporting family that my words have to be written down to be able to be spread to everyone that wants to hear them. So hopefully that's a lot. But on a serious note, I am grateful for being able to be home and somehow be able to get my homecoming talk among all this crazy stuff going on. Along my mission, I learned many different things, many amazing lessons that have helped me get to where I am and will help me further in my life. And I like to believe that I can go on for days, even hours, about the many stories that came with those lessons I learned. But I know no one really wants to listen to me ramble on for hours or days about what I learned. So I kind of just reflected to myself about the many stories I had, reading my journal and just thinking back to the many emails I wrote home. And I boiled it down to really just one general principle that was at the root of every single one of them. And that one principle was charity. Seems simple enough, but I like to think that if there's only one thing that I learned on my mission, it would be that thing. It'd be charity. On my mission plaque, I have the scripture from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13. It says, "And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity." And I really learned that along my mission. I learned that it is paramount to everything. If we don't have charity, we don't have love for all those around us, for the people that we come in contact every day, then it really makes our faith in God in vain. It makes it not what it should be. And at the start of my mission, I kind of misinterpreted what charity really was to me. I kind of judged my charity based off how many people I talked to, how many people I helped on the side of the street, or just out of random acts of kindness, and found out that really wasn't what it is. Even though there's such an emphasis on key indicators or whatever it may be out there, that's not what it's all about. And what it really is for me it is best described to me in a story called The Mansion. President Monson shared in one of his talks, named Anonymous. The story is a man's dream and goes like this. In his dream, John Waitman was transported to the heavenly city. A guide met him and others whom he had known in life and advised that he would conduct them to their heavenly homes. The group paused before a beautiful mansion and heard the guide say, "This is the home for you, Dr. McLean. Go in. There is no more sickness here, no more death, nor sorrow, nor pain. For your old enemies are all conquered. But all the good that you have done for others, all the help that you have given, all the comfort that you have brought, all the strength and love that you bestowed upon the suffering are here. For we have built them all in this mansion for you." A devoted husband of an invalid wife was shown a lovely mansion, as were a mother, early widowed, who reared an outstanding family, and a paralyzed young woman who had lain for 30 years upon her bed, helpless but not hopeless, succeeding by a miracle of courage in her single aim, never to complain, but always to impart a bit of her joy and peace to everyone who came near her. By this time, John Waitman was impatient to see what mansion awaited him. As he and the keeper of the gate walked on, the homes became smaller than smaller. At last they stood in the middle of a dreary field and beheld a hut, hardly big enough for a shepherd's shelter. Said the guide, "This is your mansion, John Waitman." In desperation, John Waitman argued, "Have you not heard that I have built a schoolhouse, a wing of a hospital, 3 churches?" "Wait," the guide cautioned. "They were not ill done, but they were all marked and used as foundations for the name and mansion of John Waitman in the world. Verily, you have had your reward for them. Would ye be paid twice? A sadder but wiser John Waitman spoke more lowly. What is it that counts here? Came the reply, only that which is truly given, only that good which is done for the love of doing it, only those plans in which the welfare of others is the master thought, only those labors in which the sacrifice is greater than the reward, only those gifts in which the giver, begets himself. This talk hit me pretty strong when I got on my mission. It came at a point in my mission that I was still kind of putting stats on my charity, so to say, and it just wasn't right. And when I read this, it kind of changed the way I did things, changed the way I spoke to people, changed the way, really just everything. It even made me have a greater appreciation for those people around me that really did have true charity. But as most of y'all know, maybe not most, but some of y'all know, I'm kind of a stubborn little guy. I still have my beard, Bishop. So that just shows how stubborn I am sometimes. And if y'all know that, then you bet your bottom dollar that God knows it too. And He knows that one talk wouldn't be enough to change my mind, change my life, but rather it would take all the people around me. And I can recall when I read this talk, I was in my second area is Surfside, and the people there were some of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. They were the most charitable, and they just were so kind. And some examples of this is every time I got with my elders quorum there, we had a joke that every single time we got together, we'd have to go give a priesthood blessing, and it was very true. There was a senior missionary serving next to me that it was her eighth mission, and there's countless people in that war that said they moved to South Carolina solely based off of a prompting, and it was just so amazing because it engraved it into who I was, it engraved what I wanted to be. But of all these amazing people, there's one story in particular that really had an impression and brought President Monson's talk into reality, made it something more real to me. And that story comes from a lady. She was in that ward, and we would go over there once a week for about an hour to do service for their backyard, as our bishop directed us. And there's one night in particular, it was Christmas Eve. It was my first Christmas Eve in the field, and it was also her birthday. She requested that we would come over for 30 minutes as her one birthday wish from us. So we did so, and knowing her, we knew that we turned from 30 minutes to an hour from her talking, because she was one of those southern belles. Love her to death. But what struck me that night is after that hour, she brought out a present for me and my companion. And she wasn't the most financially stable. She had her health problems. She had her family problems. She had everything. Everything was stacked up against her. And really, she shouldn't have been able to give us a gift like that. And what topped the gift even more is that she gave another gift to her in-home nurse the same night. And you could just see the tears in that lady's eyes, and you could just tell everything she was giving everything to us. It was not just a bottle of Axe, but it was rather everything that she could muster. It was something that was more than what really I could have really expected. And it just had a lasting impact on me because it was her birthday, and yet she was giving everything, her last cent to others. She didn't owe us anything. And really, what I took from that as I rode home and laid in bed as I was baffled was she found happiness in one thing, and that happiness was being able to see happiness in those that she loved. And she loved a ton of people. It was amazing because every single person that she found, she ran into, didn't matter if they gave them a dirty look or what, but she loved them. It was like, I was like her grandson on a mission, and my companion was her grandson, and then my next companion was her grandson, and the missionaries afterwards were the same way. And I know every single person she ran into at church was like a best friend. And it's because she had two things, and they go together, and that was love and charity. And really, that's all charity is love. It's being able to see someone on the side of the street and saying, I love you. Not because I know you, but because Heavenly Father loves you. And I know that you're a child of God, you're going through hard things. I know so many people in this world go through hard things. And one person not liking you is not something that I want to put on you. It's charity. That's what I found on my mission. As I went through my mission, I tried to encompass what this lady taught me. And that was make someone happy, make those that you love happy. And it just makes everything so much easier. It made the worst of times, the times where I was ready to blow up at my companion or whatever it may have been, into only bad times, and those bad times into almost good times, and those good times into great times. It made my mission, heck, 2 times, 3 times more, maybe more than that, more valuable and more happy. When I look back at my mission, I remember the last 18 months of my mission, and that's because I learned that lesson about that time. And I know that lesson applies to us after the fact. It applies to us for the rest of our lives. But Elder Holland, in one of his talks, said our missions are forever. I think that's because it's always our mission to have charity. It's always our mission to follow the example of Christ and be able to give everything we have for everyone else. And I know it's hard. It's kind of interesting thinking about it sometimes, like why I do that, and it's hard to go into something 100% and come out of it saying I didn't have any ultimatums of that. But I know it's possible, and I know we just keep striving, we can be able to have these things. I know that charity is at the center of this plan. If God didn't love us, then He won't have sent us here to be able to become who we are, to be able to become happier and stronger and overcome our weaknesses. I know if He didn't love us, He wouldn't have given us such great families, which I'm so grateful for, or such great members of our ward and our bishopric and just everything. If He didn't love us, He wouldn't give us our trials. He wouldn't give us our triumphs. He wouldn't give us anything. But Heavenly Father does love us, and that's why we're able to be here where we're at. I know that as we follow that plan that He has for each and every one of us, that we can be able to experience that happiness that we're promised in so many different occasions, and that we're going to be able to make other people so much happier. And it's an amazing thing. And so these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.